Hello retro gamers and welcome to another video where I mod something. The first video was the composite mod for the Super Master System, so there should be a card on the screen now if you want to see that. But today we are modding the GameCube, by Nintendo, released in the early 2000s. I will be showing you today how to install a Xeno GC mod chip. So now, I should probably stress right away there is one reason why I'm doing this, and it is not to play burnt games. So Nintendo, if you're watching, or more specifically Nintendo's lawyers, if you're like, hey, you can't do that, we're going to sue the pants off you, please don't. There is one very good reason to do that, and that is so I can use the Game Boy player for the GameCube. Now, the thing about these is by themselves they're quite cheap, but they do require a boot disc. I love the visual representation I just used just then. But yeah, you need a boot disc to actually run the software, so then you can play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games for your TV. And I want to be able to do that so then I can record footage for the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance and finally do reviews for them. The thing is though, the boot disc for some reason is really sought after and it's really expensive compared to the actual hardware. So the Game Boy player I think I picked up for $25, actually imported it from Japan, but if I want to buy it with a disc, like a boot disc, I'm looking at close to 80 bucks, and that's more than what I paid for the GameCube just by itself. So, being the tight ass that I am, I don't want to spend the money on the boot disc. And by the way, Nintendo lawyers, if you're still watching, I would be happy to purchase a boot disc from you if that is available and do this all legally. But since I can only buy it on the secondhand market and the price is too much, then no, I'm not going to do it. So that's the reason why I'm installing the mod chip, just so I can burn a disc of the boot disc, burn a disc of the boot disc, so then I can play Game Boy Advanced and Game Boy Color games through the GameCube to my heart's content. So basically this video will be in two parts. First part will be me showing you how to disassemble the GameCube and install the mod chip itself. Second part will be me attempting to burn the disc, but we'll get to that in due course. Now let's get to disassembly. Okay, so this is the first time that I'm using this dual camera setup for a video like this, so hopefully it turns out okay. But the first thing we're going to do is take out these 4 screws on the bottom. And these aren't your standard Phillip head or flathead screws. They're actually a screw specifically designed by Nintendo. So you'll need to go online and find one of these, what they call game bits. And basically they have the proper, I don't know if you call that like a hex end on it, so you can, take out these screws. So I won't show you me taking all of them out, but I'll just show you just the first one just so you can get an idea of what the screw looks like. There we go. So yeah, hopefully that's coming up on the camera. This camera doesn't have autofocus, so I can't bring it in too closely, unfortunately. But it is a bit of an odd screw. So yeah, I'll take the 3 others out and then we shall continue. Alrighty, so that's all the screws out. Now this should just come off the top, like so. So we'll put that aside. I don't want that to be in the way of the camera. I'll just put it over here for now. So yeah, as you can see, everything is built in there quite compactly, and yeah, it's very interesting how they do it, how they've done it actually. So the next step will basically be to remove all these screws here and get some other stuff off, because where we're soldering the mod chip is actually on the bottom of this plate here. So yeah, this is actually the first time I've done it myself, but apparently this bit here comes off like so. So that's the access to the back, and then this front bit should also come off. Okay, so it appears these are held in by 2 little screws. I don't know if you can quite see those on camera, just down the bottom there. So I'll just grab a smaller screwdriver and see if I can pull those out. Man, what did I put my hand there? So that guy should come out. Oh, all these screws are in really tightly, but that's good. It's a good sign of build quality, I think. Yeah, so they're really long screws, so that will probably explain why they're in so well. So I'm just using my magnetic screwdriver to pull them out since they're so far in. Come on, buddy. Let the magic of magnets draw you out. Maybe that one isn't quite unscrewed enough. No, it definitely is. It's just been stubborn. There we go. So now this bit should hopefully come off if my research was correct. Ooh, something's happening. Fantastic. And there's a little ribbon cable there, so that just slots out like so. So be very careful when pulling that out, because if you stuff that up, then it's going to be very hard to replace. And if you have the skill level that I do, you probably won't be able to replace it. So just, yeah, little bits and pieces there. I think that's probably all we really need to take off. I think now we can actually get to these main screws themselves. So I'll just put those in a bit where you can see them. And yeah, I'll pull all these out and I shall meet back in a second. All right, so I removed most of the screws sort of around the edge here. However, we do need to take the screws out of the fan assembly here because that is actually blocking off one of the other screws here. So I'll just show that on camera. There's one on the side here, and that comes out like so, maybe. Of course it's not gonna come out smoothly as I'm filming it. Anyway, we can't dwell too long. We have other screws to undo and we'll come back to that one. Hopefully it will come out a bit more easier once the other one's loosened. So yeah, that whole thing is now starting to feel a bit more loosey-goosey. So let's see if we can pull that guy out now. No. Yes, maybe. Let's try this guy. It's actually quite a long screw compared to the other one. Gotcha. No, I don't gotcha. There we go, I do gotcha. So that guy is a bit of a problem child, but otherwise, there. So I'm not gonna pull that out just yet, but as you can see, or maybe you can't see, there are 3 other screws here, and there's also this one over here as well. So let's just pull those guys out. I think this is definitely one of the most, or one of the more complex console assemblies I've personally done, and you know, I like to think that I've pulled apart quite a few consoles. Generally they just come apart, and if anything there's 2 layers. There's basically where the disk drive is or where the cartridge slot is, and then yeah, basically you just have a main board and that's about it. But this guy, because it's all built into a cube, everything's sort of condensed. I think it looks pretty cool, and it's nicely designed. I think it's a good piece of engineering. So I think that is all. Yep, no, that's definitely all. So yeah, basically where we're soldering the chip is under here. So this is the bit we need to keep. This bit here, nice big ass heatsink here, that can go to the side for the time being. We don't really need to touch anything in there as far as I'm aware. All right. So just be really careful of the laser on the top of here, because if you sort of scratch that up, then you know, you're pretty much stuffed, unless you just want to boot stuff off SD cards your whole life, and you know, who wants to do that? So yeah, we just got a few more screws here. These should just come out easily, hopefully. So let's just pull these little guys out. And this may be basic, there may be no reason for me to mention this, but when you're taking out screws of things, do it in a diagonal pattern. Don't go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because if you do it in a diagonal pattern, basically you're releasing the stresses you know, of the tension of the plate on like evenly. I know I'm not explaining that very well, but basically if you go clockwise or counterclockwise, then basically you're putting a lot of extra friction on those other screws. So yeah, you know, you don't want to do that. And last one. Alrighty, oops. So that should just come right off, and voila, we have made it to the bottom circuit board where we are actually going to be soldering this mod chip to. So in the description box, I will link a very helpful PDF on how to install these things. As far as mod chips go, it's very easy. All you need is a soldering iron and a bit of solder. You don't even need to use wires. In doing research for this, I did find that there were a few guides recommending using wires, but I don't really think it's necessary. But the PDF, I'll sort of just give you a screenshot of that on screen now. It's very similar. So as you can see, the board basically just sits on the PCB, and there's some points on the board, and you just solder them like so. So I have this the right way there, and this one faces that way. So basically that sits over that resistor like so. Hopefully I'm not in the way of the camera as I'm doing this. So yeah, it may be kind of hard to see on camera right now. I'll zoom it in if you can't see. But basically, see how there's these solder points on the board and then the solder points on the chip itself? Basically, we're just going to be bridging those, and that's it. That's the entire installation. So yeah, very simple. This mod chip I bought on eBay for $4. The funny thing is, I don't think this is a real Xeno GC board. All the sort of mod chip websites I went on, they're all out of stock. So this was bought from China. It took a very long time to arrive, so hopefully it works. But yeah, $4. And what a time to be alive. What a world we live in where you can buy a knockoff of a mod chip. Like, just think about that for a second. A mod chip is used to basically illegally mod your console usually so you can play pirated games. This is a knockoff of one of those, even though the original would have been like a commercial sort of thing anyway. So yeah, just makes you think, doesn't it? Anyway, enough about that. I'm gonna turn on my soldering iron, let that heat up, and then we'll get to soldering. Alrighty, so the first thing I'm going to do is just hold it down with a little bit of electrical tape just so it doesn't move around, because it is quite small. And there does need to be a fair amount of precision involved as we do this, because we don't want to cause any unnecessary bridges. So let's just stick that little guy there, and we'll just make sure that that is in place. I might just put another piece just on the other side. Trying very hard here to not get my fat head in the way as I do this. So, okay, so that's pretty much in place. So basically, see how there's these 2 points we're soldering to? There's one there and then one on the other side. Just as an example, we want to make sure that there's no solder in the middle bridging them, because if they bridge, it's going to cause a short circuit, and while it probably won't do anything bad, it definitely won't work. So yeah, my tip on my soldering iron is tinned up. Let's stop fapping about and get it done. So I'm going to just heat up the edge here first, and then just apply a dab of solder. We don't need too much. And then I'm gonna just, I don't know, how am I gonna do this? Alright, so I may have added a little bit too much there. We really want to make sure we don't overdo it, because if there's too much, we could cause a cold connection. But, alright, so there's just a bit of a gloop there at the moment, but otherwise I think we're okay. I think that is causing a join. Alright, let's try this one over here. Actually, I'm just going to clean my tip a little bit first, because that solder did look a bit mucky. And if solder is dirty, that will also cause issues as well. Alright, that's looking pretty good. So we just have to be very careful here. Yeah, that is way better than the first time. And then over here, basically we can just sort of fill that up. Since those ones there are only the one connection basically, there's no possibility of any bridging. So those bits are a lot easier. It's just these other bits, we're just going to make sure they don't bridge, because if they do, then we're going to have to sort of suck that solder up, use some solder wick if we make a mistake, and basically just going to waste time. And time is very important. Alright, that is looking pretty good, if I don't say so myself, except for that first bit. That is just a gloop of terror. But otherwise, I think the other bits are okay. I'm gonna partially reassemble this and see if it works. Okay, so when I test this, I just want to make sure that I'm not covering up the two little LED indicators here, because they will tell us if everything is working properly or not. However, I will just put a bit of tape temporarily just over the solder points, so there's no chance it can short with, you know, the shield or anything else. So I'm not going to put it back together properly until I know it's working. So let's just put this guy back on, which lines up with, oh, like that, I think. Crap. So yeah, I obviously was doing that wrong. This bit goes on like that, and then this bit sat on this like that, on this little shock absorbers. Like so. Put that more centered to the camera, sorry. That can just, I don't know, sit upright like that for now, I guess. I'll just sort of hold that in place. And then we've got the front panel. Do we need to attach that? Nah, I don't think we do. So let's just put that aside. Where is the power cable? Here it is. So let's just plug that little guy in. Like so. And hopefully when I turn it on, and hopefully it still turns on, we'll be able to see the little LED light and it'll tell us what it needs to know. So I guess that would be the on button there. It's turning on. Alrighty, I see absolutely no light whatsoever. So either I've soldered it in wrong, which I probably have because that first solder joint was definitely a bit dodgy, or it's a stuffed chip. Hopefully not a stuffed chip. So I'm going to do a bit of troubleshooting, and yeah, I'm not going to make you watch that. And yeah, we'll convene when the time is right. So, jump cut. I'm filming this shot a couple of weeks after the final shot that you just saw just then. Ultimately, I could not get the mod chip to work. I desoldered and resoldered and cleaned in between several times, and it just wasn't working. On the third attempt, one of the solder points on the board of the GameCube came off. Pretty much, I didn't brick the GameCube still works, but meaning that I now can't attach the mod chip the way that I meant to. And I kind of just rage quit. That's why we're coming back a couple of weeks later. I've just sort of realized in retrospect that the process in the video was fine, so I might as well just release it. And also, you may have seen on Facebook, I built a new computer, so I was very eager to use it and edit the video up, and edit's like a dream. The other computer I was using is from 2011, so anyway, sidetracked. So I'm not going to finish this right here, because ultimately I do want this to be mod shipped, because I want this Game Boy player to work. So I might order a couple. I'm gonna order 2 more mod chips. Hopefully one of those will work, and then I'll just have to figure out
the solder pad that came off, I'll just follow the trace. Hopefully I can just scrape it away, and then just using a wire, just solder that part elsewhere. So I'll have to look into that. So yeah, if I figure that out, I'll do a follow-up video. And in the video, I also will burn the disc for the boot-up disc for the Game Boy player. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of this video. Just another side note for my regular viewers who are watching this in real time as I'm releasing it. It has been about a month since I released my last review, so I'm very sorry about that. I am currently working on a new review, don't worry, I haven't gone away. I was just taking a bit of a break. I started a new job, so things were a bit hectic for me in the real world, but things are starting to calm down now. You know, I've sort of realigned my free time, if you will, because my new job requires me to get up early, like super early. So I lose my evenings, but I usually get a huge chunk of my afternoon recovered. So it was just sort of a process of, you know, realigning myself, and hopefully the dishwasher isn't making too much noise, so I haven't really planned this out very well. But yeah, that is it. Thank you for watching. I am making a review as we speak, so stay tuned for that. Thank you very much.